Hi, this is all about the tag. Okay, inside every web page is a terrible secret. All web pages are controlled by tags. But don't worry, tags aren't some kind of evil alien mind control thing. Basically, a tag is just text. You can see a couple up here. These are two types of tags. We have the starting tag, and you can see these are called chevrons. You could call them arrows, but I like to call them chevrons. If you look at your keyboard, you can get those to the right of the M by pressing the Shift key. Now, they always have something in them. An example here is the word body. You also get another type, which is an end tag. It looks the same, but it has that slash going through it, that line, and that shows that something's ended. For example, this is to end a body tag. Okay, so basically, tags control where everything starts and stops in the web page. It's a bit like a road sign. If you're driving towards Aylesbury, you'll see a road sign saying this is where Aylesbury starts. And similarly, if you leave Aylesbury, you're going to come across a road sign saying this is where Aylesbury ends. If I was to take that analogy and write it in the shape of tags, it would look a bit like this. This is saying it's a starting Aylesbury tag. There's my start tag. Then you've got some content. You are now in Aylesbury. We then have the ending Aylesbury tag telling you you've ended Aylesbury. And what you can get from this is that everything there is inside Aylesbury. Then you can have content outside of a tag. And here's another tag then. This one's saying that we're going to start entering Stoke Mandeville. Then you have some content within Stoke Mandeville, and then of course you have an end tag saying that you've left Stoke Mandeville, and from that you can tell that everything there is inside Stoke Mandeville. So that's the analogy using street signs. HTML contains two parts, and in real life you will actually always see tags telling you which these two parts are. So all web pages, here's my web page here, have a head and a body. No legs or arms, just a head and the body. The head is where the hidden detail is, and the body is where what you see on the actual page itself is. So when we look at that in tags, we can see them here. There's the start tag for the head, and if you read a few lines below, you can see the end tag for the head. So from that, we know that everything there is part of the head. And if you go to the line below, there's the start tag for the body, and there's the end tag for the body. So we know that everything between those two parts is the body. There are, of course, some exceptions to the rule. There's the BR tag. Now, BR doesn't stand for it's cold. BR actually means line break. And when you think about it, it's like when you press enter when you're typing a Word document and it goes to a new line. Well, this tag creates a new line at that point. It's the main way that you will actually make a new line. If you don't put BR in, it usually won't go to a new line for you. Another common one is image. With image, it contains all the information needed to show an image. Now, I've just shown you the IMG part of it, but here's an example of one. Image, and then SRC, which stands for source. So image source equals ahslogo.png. So that one there would show the Aylesbury High School logo, or a picture of it. So let's look at a list of some of the most common types of tags. You may want to pause this and come back to it when answering quizzes. The first one is HTML that starts and stops. That's hypertext markup language, and that you normally have at the beginning and end of any web page. We have the head. Well, we've discussed that, and you have that at the beginning and the end. And the head is where you get extra content, normally the content you don't see, but is needed to run other things. We have the body, and that's the content you do see on the main page, and that's mostly kept in body. And we have the break, which of course doesn't need an end because it's an action. Now we have this one, P for paragraph. Oddly enough, ending a paragraph will also create a new line at the end of it. When you press enter in Word, I wasn't wholly true with you earlier, is actually what you're doing is making a new paragraph. If you want to make a line break, you actually have to hold a combination of keys. Now, a paragraph is slightly different to a new line. A paragraph will be treated as one block, and between paragraphs it will normally put an extra space, whereas when you do a new line there isn't an extra space. Okay. And there's the image source ... Okay. This last one, A is for attribute. Now, you'll never see A on its own. There are lots and lots of attributes, but one example of an attribute could be a hypertext. So that's a link. When you click on it, it takes you somewhere else. Here, for example, we have the attribute href hypertext reference equals the web page to go to, and then inside here just a slash, click here to link to the AHS website, and then there's our end attribute. So that was how you would quite often see the attribute. Okay, on the other side we have, now you notice that we haven't talked ever about changing fonts and stuff. That is done elsewhere. So, but you can choose to make something a heading or smaller. So here we have H1 for heading. That's the largest kind of font style you'll come across. And then heading 2 is slightly smaller. It doesn't mean the second heading, it means a slightly smaller heading. Heading 3 is smaller than heading 2. We now have something called div. Now these divisions are used when you actually want to make something move around somewhere on the screen, or appear or disappear. They're used a lot more now, and we will be coming to those. They're really quite important. And there's one called script, which you'll be using much later. And script is when you want to run a totally different language, such as JavaScript, from within the web page. Very last one, and this you will get to know and love, is style. Nowadays, apart from choosing heading 1, 2, 3, paragraph or body, is if you want to change the font or the color or anything else, you will do that with what's called a style. And normally we will make something called a cascading style sheet, but we will come to that later. Very handy for WordPress. Okay, those are the most common types, and as I said, you may well want to pause and come back to parts of these videos when you're answering the homework quiz. Okay, so a quick recap. HTML pages contain tags. Those tags are used to say when things start and stop. For example, this is a start tag. That's a start for a paragraph tag, and that's the stop of a paragraph tag. A few special tags don't need them, such as the break and the image. Other information can also be hidden in those tags, and that's it.